and
You think
filled
John's a
the
blue
air
flower?
with sweetness. Well, the blue flower, okay.
Amongst the Night's
So
Watch,
a
sure.
blue flower is basically
Hello, and welcome back to Vassals of Kingsgrave for our 27th episode of our linear reread through A Song of Ice and Fire. Today we'll be covering Dany 4 of Clash of Kings. That's the House of the Undying chapter. My name is Adam, drownedsnow on the forums. I'll be your host. And this is just a continuation of our previous episode. It was all recorded at once. So I will be joined still by Tanya, Scott, Matt, Hannah, and Nadia. And we will just jump right back into that. So you guys, are you ready to move on to the House of the Undying?
Yep.
Sure.
Alright.
Alright.
So, 2 days later, August 19th, Dany enters the House of the Undying, Dany 4. This is 7 chapters ahead of Dany 3, again, spread out. Yep. And that's going to be Scott.
Okay. So yeah, a couple days later, Dany, not really getting a whole lot of help from anyone else in the city, decides, against the advice of, I think, just about everybody in the entire group of friends that she has, to strike off for the House of the Undying and Pyat Pree and see what he can offer her, because she hasn't gotten really anywhere else in her time in Karth. And she basically drinks some shade of the evening and is given a set of instructions to just keep taking the door on the right and climbing up the steps and just keep doing that the whole way through until she reaches the Chamber of the Undying. And she goes in, and the first few rooms she goes through are empty. Then she comes to a round room. She goes through another door. And the first room she looks into has a beautiful naked woman sprawled on the floor, who's being ravaged by radish-looking men. And then she moves on. The next image that she gets is sort of a feast of corpses, mutilated bodies holding cups and spoons. And sitting high above is a man with a wolf's head, wearing an iron crown, holding a leg of lamb like a scepter. The next door she looks through is a vision of the House of the Red Door in Bravos, the one with a lemon tree outside. And she also sees... what the hell is his name? Sir Willem Derry there, who invites her in and tries to get her to stay and hang out. And she kind of wants to, but she decides it'd be better to move on because she realizes, hey, that guy's dead. So this probably isn't a good idea. The next vision is another review back into her family history, and she sees a stone hall with the dragon skulls looking down. And then there's an old man on the throne screaming, "Let them be king of charred bones and cooked meat, and let him be king of ashes." So probably the Mad King there. All right, so yeah, then she moves on. The next vision is she sees her brother Rhaegar, who's with Elia of Dorne, and she's breastfeeding Aegon. And Elia asks Rhaegar if he's going to make a song for the boy, and Rhaegar replies with, "He has a song. He is the prince that was promised, and his is the song of ice and fire." And then he looks up when he says this, and his eyes meet Dany's. And to her, it seems as if he sees her, but he's not exactly certain. There must be one more, he said, though whether he was speaking to her directly or the woman in bed, she could not say. The dragon has 3 heads. The next thing she encounters, she ends up outside, and she sees Pyat Pree, who seems a little confused, and thinks that she made a wrong turn, but she quickly realizes that he's trying to mislead her, and then she goes through another door. And the next vision she comes to is a grand hall of wizards, and she receives this, and they're sort of offering to teach her knowledge about dragonkind and their speak. And then ultimately she comes to the Chamber of the Undying after leaving the Hall of Wizards and refusing their knowledge. And the Chamber of the Undying is just a big stone table with a lot of what seem to be corpses around it and a floating heart. And she asks about the visions seen prior, and they tell her it's the shape of the shadows, morrow's not yet made, drink from the cup of ice, drink from the cup of fire, mother of dragons, child of 3. Daenerys is kind of confused about the whole thing, and they then call her mother of dragons, child of storm, and she asks for clarity. And they start giving her some more prophecy because she's hasn't been told enough confusing stuff by people lately. But the next part she gets is 3 fires must you light, 1 for life, 1 for death, 1 for love. And then 3 mounts you must ride, 1 to bed, 1 to dread, and 1 to love. And then 3 treasons you will know, 1 for blood, 1 for gold, and 1 for love. And then she says she doesn't understand, and she's asking for more clarity. And then she gets a few more visions. She gets Viserys getting his golden crown, a tall lord with copper skin and silver gold hair, standing beneath the banner of a fiery stallion with a burning city behind him. Rubies flying from the chest of a prince like drops of blood, and the prince sinks to his knees and with his last breath utters a woman's name. And then she gets a vision of a blue-eyed king that casts no shadow, raises a red sword that glows like the sunset, a cloth dragon swaying on poles amongst a cheering crowd, and from a smoking tower, a great stone beast takes flight, breathes shadow fire. And then she gets a vision of her silver mount that Drogo gave her, going through the grass to a stream underneath a sea of stars. And then a corpse standing at the prow of a ship, eyes bright in his dead face and gray lips smiling. And then a blue flower growing from a chink in the wall of ice and filling the air with sweetness. And then the undying color mother of dragons, bride of fire. And then she gets visions of shadows dancing inside the tent, a barefoot girl running towards a big house with a red door, Miri Mazdur screaming and dragons bursting forth, the body of a naked man being dragged behind her silver mount, a white lion running through the grass that's taller than a man, and then beneath the mother of mountains, a line of naked crones creeping from the great lake, heads bowed and shivering before her. And then 10,000 slaves raising bloodstained hands as she rides by on her silver while they chant Mother. And then she kind of snaps out of her vision, and Drogon is sort of setting things on fire and kind of saving her life. And she manages to make her way out, and Pyapri looks insanely mad, tries to kill her, but he gets dealt with by Jogo and Rakaro. And that's pretty much the chapter.
And scene. Excellent, excellent. That's very well done, Scott. Yeah, there's a lot. There's so much
That's a lot
there,
of
right?
prophecies.
Yeah. It's a really bad acid trip for Dany here. So the chapter comes at you real fast and full like that. So we do want to go back and let's kind of start just kind of at the beginning there and take it one at a time. So the woman being nibbled by the rat-faced men, I'm not really sure about that one.
So isn't that supposed to be...
I think it's it's supposed to be Westeros.
Yeah.
That's the most common interpretation, I think.
And the 4 dwarves are the 4 kings currently claiming kingship in Westeros. I always remember it as 5 dwarves, but I was surprised to read that it says it's 4, because I think Redley is already dead at this time.
Yeah.
So.
But they're not even dwarves. They're like a different race, right? Like they're like the Ibonese.
Yeah,
like, you know how
not
the
exactly
Ibonese people.
dwarves. Yeah.
But what
No,
she
it
said
just
like
says
the
they're very
smallest.
small and.
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of... Yeah.
Very creepy.
I don't know. I always kind of took that to be a reference back to the Robert's Rebellion, because you had that alliance of like Stark, Tully, Baratheon, and Aaron that ousted the Targaryens, who had everything. And the parallel between the War of the Five Kings and this doesn't make sense, because shouldn't they be fighting over the woman if it's the Five Kings?
Well, they're basically each destroying like a different part of her, right?
Yeah, so I think that's still...
Yeah.
No, everyone's destroying the Riverlands. They should all be destroying one part of her.
I think it just means that none
That's
of the
kinda
kings
true,
are in, but
but-
none of the kings are in the same place, right? They're all at different
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're
Maybe you
spread
can
out right
draw
now,
like
yeah.
parallels to the woman's anatomy and then parts of Westeros. I don't know. I haven't really
All right,
thought
let me
about
get my
parts
map of Westeros and my textbook of anatomy and
Yeah.
overlay them. I don't know. That one's weird, but it just, it just gives us a taste of what we're in for when we get into this chapter. The next one is pretty is pretty obvious, right?
Unless you're
The Red
reading
Wedding?
it for the first time, you just race through it, and then you're shocked
Yeah.
by the red wedding.
Well, yeah, because if you're reading through it the first time, you're kind of like a wolf. Like, you could maybe make some sort of Stark connection, obviously there, but not necessarily a Red Wedding, death connection.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I don't think this.
Yeah, but it even describes Rob's crown.
Sure, but I mean, you're not
Like, it
gonna
says-
expect something like that, even with the prophecy. 'Cause it's still.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know,
it's
but
vague
it's so
because
long
this is
once you get to
basically-
that later on. So
Yeah, I mean, this is not even an illusion. It's basically a scene lifted directly from the red wedding.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
And isn't there a weird line in there where it's like the wolf looked at her like knowingly or something like that, or
No,
yeah,
it just
it watches
sort
her
of-
slightly, or the
No.
eyes fall at her.
I think it just looks at her like really sadly.
yeah. And on a second reread, that's always a bad part of the House of the Undying. 'Cause just they're never gonna meet, and she's never gonna know what most of this stuff is. It's I don't know. It's very confusing. This is all mostly for our benefit, but.
That's true, but on the upside, it does kind of give credit to the House of the Undying, So, way to go, Undying! You called it.
He calls a lot of things.
yeah.
Well, if you predict everything, you're gonna be right.
Although these may not all be right. I don't know. Let's see, what else do we have? The King of Charred Bones, right?
Right.
we see
That's
sort of a
that's right
really
before
sad-
Jamie kills him, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's the Mad King. When Jaime becomes the hero of the realm, only to himself, because no one else knows.
Is anybody else surprised that she didn't stick around and watch that whole thing play out? Because she knows what, from the stories that Viserys has told her, what the throne room looks like.
But she probably doesn't guess that it's her father. At this point, she doesn't know anything about her father except what Viserys has told her. And I doubt he's
Yeah,
told her
and I
anything
mean-
bad. It's only Barristan that sort of, tries to make her aware of what actually happened.
Yeah. Plus, she really needs to get to her dragons that have been kidnapped. Come on, guys.
So
And the scene which happened before this, which was when she sees Sir William die, that was really, really sad. She sees him
right,
going
right.
home.
Yeah.
And she
The
wants to go
linens.
and take his hand, but she resists. It's very, very sad.
Yeah, so this seems like a mix of they're drudging up personal memories with emotional attachment to her, and basically they're pulling a lot from her, and then just a lot of stuff that's has nothing to do with her seemingly.
Well, I think they're trying to.
Like Red Wedding.
Well, I think they're trying to lure her in, to keep her there to sort of drain off her life force. Because we see a lot of times that the use of magic is, paid for generally with some form of life or another. So I think if they can lure her in, either emotionally or through knowledge or whatever, then they can, sort of like they do attempt to do at the end. They can kind of keep her in and vampirize on her life to keep keep themselves living for however long they've been alive.
Yeah, these people are the worst.
Come on, they just want to drain her life. They're not like Roose Bolton or Ramsay.
They're gonna help her. She's gonna, she would, just before she dies, she'd have a vision of reclaiming her kingdom, right? I don't know. So they kind of would have helped her. Yeah, Anyway.
Going back to the first vision. So Renly's already dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
But has
Yeah.
Balon declared himself king yet?
Yes, yeah.
In secret.
In secret.
Or no, yeah, we've already had No, we've already had Theon. Well, yeah, literally, we've already had Theon take over Winterfell at this point. So.
And take the title Prince of Winterfell because his father has taken the title of king.
Yeah, that was just in the last reread. So.
Never mind.
All right. So then Rhaegar and the prince that was promised.
Wait, what about if you read it non-linearly? If you read it in the published order, has that already happened?
In the published order, yeah.
Well, I think Balon
Because
has
the
already
Dany
declared
chapters are so
himself
pushed
king.
out.
like
early,
a few chapters ago. Was that in Theon 1 or? I'm not even sure.
I don't think the declaration happens in a Theon chapter. Like, don't they get it? Is it a Cat chapter, or where kind of like the realm gets it? Now, I mean, if depending on how you want to look at it, Balon's declared himself a king probably back into Game of Thrones, right?
I mean,
it's just been hush hush.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh yeah, I just looked it up. That's correct. Because Theon's next chapter is the Farmer's Boys in the published order.
Yeah, and that's the one we did last week.
Okay. Never mind then. Don't mind.
All right. So Rhaegar with the baby, talking about the prince that was promised, is the Song of Ice and Fire, yada yada yada.
Yeah, you get the series name drop.
I think
that's always great.
That's my favorite part of any movie, when they say the title.
Roll credits.
I think the most important part in this is when he says, there must be another one.
And he looks right at her.
Yeah,
the dragon must have 3 heads.
Yeah.
Clunk.
Yep.
I think that's probably one of the sadder parts of this too. Is later on when you see him die and he whispers again his name.
Well, we don't know he whispers Lyanna's name. I mean,
he whispers Lyanna's name. Come on.
I don't know. He got his ass kicked pretty bad. He might have been crying out for his mommy because Robert was a pretty badass back then. It wasn't fat drunk King Robert. It was like big warhammer wielding murderous Robert. So.
I like to think at the moment of death he realized something significant about the prophecy.
Maybe that Jon was supposed to be Visenya, actually.
I think he got that. No, Daenerys is supposed to be Visenya, but close.
Oh, all right. Let's see. What's next?
Although if Jon is actually R+L, then that would be hilarious if Howland Reed shows up and he's like, "Oh, look, it's Visenya. How you doing?"
Look, we were very strict with the names. Let's see. What is the next one?
Next one is Pyat Pri trying to lead her away. Like she ends up outside and Pyat Pri tries to trick her away again.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's just another attempt to misdirect her. Then she says a couple of prayers to the Dothraki horse god and then the warrior, and then she sees that group of wizards that promised to teach her about dragon speak and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, do you want to learn to talk to your dragon there?
Did anyone else think this was supposed to represent the 7 gods? Because there's one armored and one wizard and 2 females that are beautiful.
It's a D&D party.
No, I do remember thinking that, Matt.
Good, I'm not the only crazy one.
No, I thought so. It
Just
says a prayer to the warrior beforehand, so yeah.
Yeah. The only other thing that I could think of was the major houses in Westeros that are moving right now in the war and having big things to do if they're led by a man or a woman and trying to line that up, but I don't think it fits all the way.
Yeah, I got nothing.
We done. Yeah, because if you kind of look at it, I mean, you'd have to stretch it, but you can kind of see if they would each represent one and then they're all looking down on her.
Yeah.
Or that's how I imagined it in my head when I read it. They're above her, right?
Yeah, and they're offering to teach her, their knowledge and whatnot, and they offer to show her how to train your dragon, so.
How they're it's a willful creature.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, so she flees, and then she gets into the room with the long table with the human heart.
Mm-hmm. Which ends up getting set on fire by Drogon. So, hey, Drogon's a Stannis fan. Check it out.
So what are the theories on the heart?
Well,
I don't know.
later.
Are there?
Yeah, because later there's one towards the end where it's a blue king that casts no shadow, and a lot of people say that that's Stannis. So, and she says a human heart which appears corrupted and blue. And I mean, by all accounts, Stannis is like a good law-abiding guy who's clearly getting into some darker
Blue
shit.
makes me think. Blue always kind of makes me think of, undead.
Me too.
So-
I don't think the Blue King that casts no shadow is Stannis. They said it's because his eye color. He has like
So is
piercing
that,
blue
like-
eyes.
Is that like the Great Other?
That's
No,
that's what I
yeah,
always
it's-
think with
it
the
could
blue,
be, right?
No, Stannis has like blue eyes.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
definitely
and
like
the
a
no
reference
shadow
to
part
Stannis.
is. Yeah, and his shadow has been harvested by Melisandre, right? So he doesn't
Because
have-
the shadow baby. That's the
Yeah.
part that definitely makes you think.
But I
Stannis,
mean,
'cause
in that
can't give the
sense,
shadow
though, he
anymore.
really does cast a shadow. You know what I
Well,
mean?
no, because his
But not anymore.
Yeah, his fires are too low or whatever.
Yeah. But it's the blue part, I guess, is what always kind of hangs me up, because I don't like blue. I don't really associate blue and Stannis. I mean, maybe he's got blue eyes, but don't like half people in the world have blue eyes. So.
Right. Well, and like
I don't know.
he, because it's not that he casts a shadow anymore. To me, the way I read it is like, well, it can't be Stannis because he actually like, sent his shadow out. Like he sent his shade out to do his business. But when the walkers come, doesn't it get like colder than cold and like foggy and shit? Don't they bring like so much snow?
They bring the cold with
Right.
them,
So if it was
is what they
super,
always say.
super cold and like an ice storm or like, okay, say they like bring a blizzard with them, you couldn't see the sun. So like if you don't have the sun shining down on you, then you don't cast a shadow, right?
Okay, but it's not blizzarding in the vision.
I'm just saying the way the White Walkers work.
Yeah.
Not that it's blizzarding in her vision, but that they wouldn't cast it.
Well, they show up during the long night, so yeah.
Right, you know?
No, I think it's a reference to everybody that she's going to kill. Because beforehand, they call her Mother of Dragons, Daughter of Death. And, and after that, they call her the Slayer of Lies. And, like, Stannis is pretending to be Azor Ahai when he's not. And people have figured that out. And that's also in the same, vision sort of cluster between things they're telling her, with the cloth dragon swaying on poles amongst the cheering crowd, and then from a smoking tower, a great stone beast taking flight, breathing shadow fire. I think the cloth dragon's a reference to Aegon, and the stone beast is John Connington, who's pushing forth a Blackfire pretender. So that's why he's breathing fire. And I think that's kind of prophesizing that she's going to take those three out specifically.
Oh, okay. That's
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very.
And so you think Stannis is the lie?
Yeah.
Stannis
Yeah,
pretending to be Azor
Lightbringer
Ahai.
is basically
Yeah.
a lie.
Does he?
Yeah.
And I get that, like, because he is sort of pretending to be Azor Ahai, but it's not something he plays up. It's not. He's like, it's mostly Melisandre
Sure.
pretending that he's Azor Ahai, right?
But I mean, yeah. But the point is,
Maybe we
saying
should
that he
do
is
these
Azor.
like. Maybe we should do these in order because these things are
Yeah.
every prophecy is related
Yeah.
to
Sorry,
the next one. So yeah.
Yeah.
we keep jumping ahead. So let's
True.
let's go back to the Undying prophecies, when they call her Child of Three. We'll keep going from
So
there.
no more on the human heart.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know what more there's to say to that, because it's leading us to all these other ones down here,
True.
right? So
Could it be like the hearts of all
we can reference
men
that.
if the long night comes?
I think we have too little information.
yeah, that's why I think there are a lot of ideas that all kind of sound right to me. I mean, I always felt that it just represents kind of the others and the frozen heart, but maybe not.
Yeah, because then it
I
says too that
always
they're not
thought that this
breathing.
I just thought that it was like something that the Undying were leeching power from.
Oh, because their
Basically, this
lips,
is how they're
the lips
staying
they get the blue
alive.
lips, right?
Yeah.
but they get that
they
from
all
the
drink
shade of the
a lot
evening.
of shade of the evening, right?
Right, but
Yeah.
maybe that's got something to do with the heart being blue.
Right.
I'm reaching here. I'm reaching.
No, it's true.
Could
Like
be.
that kind of magic seeping in, corrupting you.
Yeah. Or maybe they fill and then you get enough of it, and like that person dies. Maybe that's what their hearts look like, and that I don't know.
Yeah,
The other
and
thing,
I don't know.
What are the Undying? Like,
Yeah.
are they like the ancient ones with like that oily rock stuff, or like what are they?
No,
Are
that's
they whites or?
I don't think so. I think they're just sort of like spirits that continue to live on. And like somehow the heart
Yeah,
sort
it
of
says-
sustains them communally, and then every now and again they need to like drain somebody to keep going. But I think that's their whole point for trying to get Daenerys there, was to get her in there, because she kind of feels like they're vampirizing on her when she kind of wakes up.
Right.
So I think that's kind of what their goal was. Like some of the visions that she got were, things that she would really yearn for, like Sir Willem Derry and the House of the Red Door and Bravos of the Lemon Tree, and things that she
Anything to keep her there.
like trying to misdirect her with Pyat Pri outside. Oh, you went the wrong way. Come with me. And then right before she sees the group before. Like the wizards that promise her to teach her how to speak to dragons, anything to keep her locked in, to slowly drain her out.
And then these random visions of just stuff they have, like why not? Hey, this is interesting to you. No, maybe this. Like,
I think a little of both too, because I mean, if you can keep her there and she's really interested in finding out about her family history, well, look, Viserys told you one thing growing up. Let me show you what happened at King's Landing to your grandfather or father, to the Mad King. I'll show you what really happened. Here, look at this. Oh, you want to know what would have happened if your kids stayed alive? Check it out.
Yeah, and you also feel like they don't plan on her ever leaving, so like there wouldn't be necessarily a reason for them to like just feed her false information, other than if they're just trying to come up with something to keep her there. But like they could be showing her true stuff and not really caring, right?
Right, like the prophecy for the Red Wedding,
Yeah.
So.
Which like she's just kind of like, what is that? That's weird. All right, moving on, So, but yeah, so they call her Child of Three,
or Rhaegar and Viserys. Right?
No, that
because there's
No?
aren't there a couple ways to look at that?
no, definitely not.
Like,
I mean, there is more than one way.
all right, Scott.
There is more than one way to look at it, but no, it's definitely not for Rhaegar and Viserys, because Rhaegal and the Mad King had way more than 3 children. It's an R plus L equals D thing, and that's for Aegon, Rhaenys, and then Daenerys would be the 3rd child of Rhaegar. That's why they showed her the image of Rhaegar and Elia earlier. And Rhaegar's looking like right at her, and he's like, okay, there's got to be another one. Hint, 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 hint. And Daenerys doesn't get it because she thinks she's the daughter of the Mad King and Rhaella. So she's just like, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I'm moving on.
I mean, I'm not like a big subscriber to the R plus L equals D.
Very optimistic about that.
I get how you can draw lines.
I hope that's gonna be true.
I
I'm not too
always
excited
just
about the
took
alternative.
it as
John's not special.
I always just took it as she's descended from Aegon and Rhaenys and Visenya, basically.
Because that like child of 3, like you say, like you're the child of 2 parents. You're the child, So child of 3 could also talk about like a more lineage than like her siblings, but
yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
What?
I mean, she has 3 dragons. She like just the wording, because like if someone was to say that if let's say you had a bio Matt, and they're saying Matt he grew up and he was the child of 2 dentists, right? You wouldn't say he was the child of 3 brothers. Like it sounds weird, right? I don't know.
I would naturally assume that it would refer to the parents or some descendants or something.
Not you're talking about Aegon the Conqueror.
You have 2 parents, so.
Oh yeah. Aegon the Conqueror. Yeah, that's. Right.
Yeah, and his 2 sisters.
Yeah, because all of them are descendants at this point.
Right.
Or maybe it just means that she's one of 3 children. She has 2 brothers.
Yeah, sure, but I feel like that's the less obvious. That's the less
Yeah.
obvious interpretation, which is maybe why it's the more likely one. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a zebra theory, You hear hoofbeats and you go and assume horse, not zebra. It's a more likely one.
Or it could be something more simple, because they preface it by saying mother of dragons, child of 3. And when you think about Dany now, as opposed to before the dragons, she's kind of like reborn and made new by this happening. and all of the events surrounding that. You know, so they could just be saying,
So like she's the child of 3 dragons.
yeah, like you're the mother of dragons, but you're also like who you are now and what your destiny is now is born of them.
Yeah, it's because the wording is so unusual given the context.
I don't know.
I still don't know what to think of.
I'd kind of lean in the direction of it referring to her being the daughter of Rhaegar, because beforehand they say drink from the cup of ice, drink from the cup of fire. Well, if Lyanna's ice, Rhaegar's fire, so there you go. But I could see how it could be.
How many
Even then, she'd still be the child. But even then, she'd still be the child of only 2 parents, right? No matter whose child she is.
Yeah.
Right, but she'd be Rhaegar's 3rd child.
Right.
3 children of Rhaegar.
Yeah.
Which was
child of
she
3, number 3.
She can
maybe.
also be Aerys' 3rd child, which she is. No.
No, she can't.
Because how many kids did he have?
He had a shitload.
I mean, we concentrate on
Aerys?
The Mad King and Rhaella? Yeah, they had a shitload of kids.
Yeah, and if you count Tyrion,
but none of them survived.
Tyrion.
Boy.
And Jaime and Cersei. Yeah, that's a lot of kids. I'm just saying that those 3 are the ones that survived, right?
Yeah.
So Scott, you're in R plus L equals D.
Oh, completely.
Yes, thank you. Love it.
And just for the show watchers who happen to be listening, this is why they didn't include any of this stuff in the House of the Undying. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, this is why the House of Dying was very different.
Oh, yeah.
Tony, have you not seen that part of the show?
Oh, I've seen. No, I didn't watch. I stopped 2 years ago. But then once people start talking about the show, then they don't shut up. So
Yeah. Good point.
I don't trust anyone saying anything.
Yeah. So like I feel like I look at the way, like as far as like show references, the way I look at it is like when we're talking about the show, sort of like book references. You know, if you're not wanting to spoil someone, don't talk about something that hasn't happened in the book or whatever that, you know. But if there's a significant change, like a season or 2 ago, that like clearly doesn't, like if they're just different and it doesn't mean anything, then I like whatever.
I feel like season 1, 2, 3 are pretty safe. Like most of us have seen those at least, right?
Yeah, and nothing from there is going to pan out to like change the way the book is. So, you know. Anyway,
it's old.
Yeah.
I don't know if someone just said this, but this might relate to her dragons. Did someone say this already? That it just means that, you know, since she's their mother, eventually when they grow up, they're going to be protecting her, so she'll be sort of like their child.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what Hannah was saying. And I think...
Because they bookend it, too, by saying Mother of Dragons again a second time after.
I think that George was very smart writing this portion. And... You know, just kind of like that number 3 gets used a lot. There's a lot of significance to 3s, or could be a lot of significance to 3, with a lot of things surrounding Dany. So it makes it really hard to pin down.
It's so biblical. I wonder how much of it George had figured out at the time he wrote it, and with how much stuff he was like, I'm just gonna put this in and then figure it out. Or how many things he had planned in detail and then changed his plan.
Well, spoiler alert. Yeah. Did anyone read the original deal he sent to his publisher when it was still supposed to be a trilogy?
Yes. Oh yeah, it's way different.
It's way different, but like, Dany is one of the ones that he mentions as for sure gonna stay it out.
Gonna survive the trilogy or whatever.
Yeah, so...
But I mean, again, we had Tyrion fighting for the love of Arya with Jon Snow. And
so things have changed slightly.
Yeah, weren't Jon and Arya a couple in that?
Yeah.
So yeah, small changes.
Yeah.
Tiny changes. Yeah.
Hey, it doesn't mean they won't be a couple still.
That's gross.
Or sexy.
Or gross.
No.
I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna go with gross.
House of the Undying makes it pretty obvious that Dany and Jon are going to be a thing in the future.
No.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
No.
Nadia, did you just break Tanya?
But Jon died and he's not coming back. He's dead. He's dead. He's dead,
Oh,
and he's staying
forever,
dead.
forever,
Dead.
forever dead.
Kissing cousins.
Okay, so let's keep plowing through this because we're only about halfway through this chapter.
3 fires.
Isn't it after they call her the
3
child
fires
of 3?
you must light. 1 for
the
life,
3
1 for
fires.
death, 1 for love.
So
Only
this
2
was Miri Mazdur and 1 for life or whatever. Isn't that the
Yeah,
fire
the
that
one
she...
where the dragons were born was the one for life.
Yeah.
Well, I don't you kind of feel like, or you think the ones where the dragon was born was the one for life?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I mean, that could also sort of be the one for love because, she's in there, with Drogo. Like, I don't know.
Well,
that fire could be all
Do they
three.
have to be in order or not?
No, it means 1.
I don't think they do.
It says no, but it says very clearly 1 for life, 1 for death, and 1 to love.
2 love, yeah.
1 to
Yeah.
love. Right.
Not for love.
So what's that? What does that mean?
And I would also argue
A
that
fire to
the
love.
funeral pyre is also a fire for death too, right?
Yeah.
Because he's dead and
It
she
can be
kills
both.
Miri Mazdur on it.
Sure, but it's 1.
Yeah, but it's not like it can't. You can't count it like 2 fires, right? It's still only 1.
Yeah.
And basically, the most significant part of that is that the dragons are born out of it, right? Miri Mazdur's death is sort of like just. She basically, again, she uses that to give birth to her dragons, right?
That'd be like when she burns down King's Landing.
She's just like, I love it.
I love it. Start over.
I have a
When she
theory.
becomes a little pyro.
Uh-oh.
I have
Let's
a
go.
theory. Again, this is Jon Snow, right? Basically, she declares that Jon Snow is a Targaryen. So basically, she creates fire, right? She makes him a Targaryen to love.
For love. Oh, boy.
Anya, how do you feel?
That's when I'm gonna stop reading.
I hate.
He's still my turning stomach. Maybe she'll make him do
I
the.
don't like Danny John myself, but I don't know. It just seems that the story is going that way.
Maybe she'll make him do the fireproof test with Drogon first, and he'll fail.
Yeah.
If it's 1 to love, so like something that you're really craving or like really desire, or this could even go for the death one too.
Well, is stuff still a noun here, or is it a verb? In the last one.
Yeah, because see, one of the suggestions here, I'm just browsing Reddit right now,
Go boy.
and shamelessly stealing from Reddit. But no, one of the suggestions is that one of the fires, to love, is that leading her to love. So it could be she melts the wall, or you know what I mean. It could be something like that, like a dragon fire leads her to her true love, or I don't know.
She melts the wall
More of a
so that
direction.
John is freed from his vows, so she's free to love him.
Until the wall melts.
No.
Well, I'll just melt it real quick and we can be together.
Thank God he died. and
No, but I was
he's back,
thinking-
so that's
But
not gonna-
seriously, I was thinking that the one for death might have been the one when she said, where she told Drogon to burn one of the Great Masters.
I thought the one for death was when Drogon lights up the House of the Undying,
Interesting.
But she doesn't tell him to burn.
which could also be the one for
She
life,
doesn't
too.
really tell. Again, she doesn't tell Drogon to burn them, whereas where was it? Was it in Yunkai? I don't even remember. Astapor or Yunkai or whatever it was. She actually told Drogon to burn one of the Great Masters, right?
Yeah, Dracarys.
Yeah, she ordered him, basically.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it says 3 fires that she must light. So
It might also refer to a solution to the Pale Mare and all the bodies that are going to show up outside Marine after the next Battle of Fire.
Would
That's
that
a
be
good
for life?
Yes and yes. Because everyone's going to die of disease and sickness if they don't just sort of literally use a scorched earth policy.
I can't wait to see that in the books. Those fucking stupid heron men. It's just absurd. Guys fighting on stilts.
Yeah.
Those are poor man's siege engines. Come on.
So it says 3 fires you must light, not 2 fires you need to light and one you already did. Right?
Well, it could be like throughout your life you must.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to all be going forward, which makes it, a little complicated, but...
Yeah.
I think the most common interpretation is that one round has already been completed, and then the second round is we're sort of going through. We're seeing that right now, and then the third one is going to be in the future. So it's not.
So Dany's story arc is like a 3-part play.
She's got all 3 ghosts visiting her on Christmas.
So that means entering her 3rd act, right?
Possibly.
No, this would be intermission between acts 1 and 2.
It's going to be a 7-year intermission then.
Anything else on the fire, or... I mean, I don't know. We're not going to solve that one, I don't think.
Yeah.
So the 3 mounts, that's 1 to bed, 1 to dread, and 1 to love.
Well, love will be Jon, right?
Wow.
Yeah, the first is Drogo.
Well, obviously.
The first is Drogo, the second one is Drogon. And the third one is Jon Snow.
Nope, it's Dario.
Quentin.
And not coming back.
I mean, like, I guess... I guess, Dario. The bed was sort of Drogo, but, like, she fell in love with Drogo.
Or maybe it was a silver, the ones that she actually rode to go and, have sex with Drogo.
She rode the mount to bed. They rode it and then went...
Yeah, she literally rode it to bed.
Although they didn't use a bed, though. They just did it out in the grass,
right?
Figuratively. Yeah.
1 to dread is, I don't know, I don't see any other possibility than Drogon.
Yeah, that one seems obvious. Like, there's always one of these that seems fairly obvious. And the other 2, I don't know.
Yeah. But then the most common interpretation of 1 to bed is Drogo. So most people seem to think it's him.
Yeah, because it wasn't really love when she first did that.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, she's gonna love Jon, so pretty confident there. It's not gonna work out.
Or Tanya's losing her mind right now.
I know. Too bad it wasn't a Jon chapter.
What was that?
The third round probably doesn't include Jon. Don't worry, Tanya.
If by Jon you mean Dario, then I agree.
Or are they the same person because we've never seen them together?
That's true. Dario's still everyone.
Dario's Benjen.
Yeah, duh.
Also
Dario's Benjen.
And Howland Reed.
And Howland.
There is no Howland Reed. It's like Fight Club. It's like Fight Club. Like Ned was alone.
Howland Reed's a shadow on the wall.
They do the flashback, and afterwards they're sitting there, taking down the tower. Oh, it's real great, and it's just him by himself throwing rocks.
Ned's having his fever dream, and it's just a splice of Howland Reed's penis for one frame in his fever dream.
we all know he saw it.
I hear the content of their weasel soup is in question. Anyway,
God.
So
going back to the bed thing, doesn't she sleep with Hizdar?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I think she does.
Literally sleep with him?
Yes. Like, no, she has sexual encounter with him, right?
Right, but she has a George sex encounter.
But she doesn't feel anything when she does.
So 1 to dread.
Speaking of a George sex encounter, I guess we can mention the uncomfortable writing, sometimes when it comes to sexual natures. And when she's drinking, which one is it she drinks? And she basically says it tastes like everything, and so she mentions, all these different things. And of course, one of them is Drogo's seed. Yeah. Oh, it tastes like Drogo's seed. Like, okay, thank you, George. Thank you for that. Anyway, so.
Smacking.
So let's move on to the treasons. We have 1 treason for blood, 1 for gold, and 1 for love. And I'm pretty sure Jorah was the gold is kind of the common.
But Jorah didn't really betray her for gold, right? He did it for a pardon.
Yeah.
That was what was important.
But wasn't there gold? There was gold involved in that, though, wasn't there?
There was gold. There was gold involved, but that wasn't his main purpose for betraying her.
Yeah, because the other one was
the one for blood
Brown
is
Ben, or...
Miri Mazdur, because she betrayed Dany because of what Drogo had done to her, like her people.
Well, I thought the Miri Mazdur one was backed up because only like you need a sacrifice or blood sacrifice for that magic to work. I might be making that up.
I thought
you might be.
I thought the blood treason was Illyrio, because I thought Aegon has a blood relation to Illyrio, and at the beginning of the book, Illyrio's sort of in the Targaryen camp, and he's sort of selling Daenerys off because he brokered the deal with Drogo. So I thought that was the betrayal for blood.
Yeah, I think one way or the other that breaks down to Aegon, because he's either a relation to her in the normal sense of he's like a sibling or a cousin, or a nephew, or he's a Blackfire, right?
Well, let's not make theories based on other unproved theories.
Yeah.
Well, so you want to stop doing the linear reread, Matt? That's really sad.
So you're saying it's unproven.
But I mean, those are like the two common conceptions about what's up with Aegon, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Like the one we're supposed to believe, and then the one that most people believe.
That a lot of people suspect.
Right.
Yeah.
Because nothing can be that simple.
Everyone believes Jon's going to be brought back to life, but to Tanya, he's dead.
Yeah,
and he's going to stay that way.
Yeah.
Tanya, just let it happen. Shh, it's going to be okay.
Tanya, there's light at the end of the tunnel. George hasn't released a Jon spoiler chapter, so he really is dead.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think.
Yeah.
He's not dead. He's trapped in Ghost Body.
And dies in the prologue.
Yeah.
I could live with that. I'd be okay with that.
He's kicking dungeon.
Oh, poor Tanya.
So then the one for gold, though, Viserys betrayed her for a golden crown. Well, not. It's not. It doesn't say betray. It says treason, right? So he threatens her and her unborn child. That's a treason. You know. And
but that would
he
be
did it for gold.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But that could be blood because he's blood. I mean, Jon, if he's blood, could somehow betray her. But yeah.
That, I mean,
it's
even
a
though
lot of people, maybe.
that was really shit, but it seems a bit like he just threatened her and didn't do anything at that point. So that seems a bit weak.
He didn't declare war on his sister,
that
right?
seems a bit weak to me.
Well, he's also betraying his family tradition of wedding your sibling by selling her off to Drogo, because in that very chapter, like he's saying, "Oh, the dragon doesn't mate with beasts in the field, but here, have my sister."
Well, I think you can tell that's kind of part of.
But see,
that sets him
wouldn't
off,
be
though.
treason because Daenerys isn't queen then. Like Viserys is still alive, so she's not the queen of Westeros.
No, but he's betraying
Viserys
family
is.
tradition, and he's literally selling her for to get his crown.
No, but she does make a good point. I mean, treason is against your superior.
Against your ruler, basically.
Yeah.
And she's not even the Khaleesi at that time, so you can't consider her the queen of the Dothraki either.
Well, if she's...
Is she Khaleesi?
Well,
no, not when he marries her off. Right,
yeah, exactly.
But if she is Rhaegar's daughter, she is his queen.
No, she's not.
But she's not.
Yes, she would be. Her claim.
She's not Rhaegar's daughter. Let's just put that off the table.
But neither of them know that. If she is, I don't think she is.
Viserys would know it.
Saying that.
I think Viserys knows it.
Viserys definitely knows it. He knew what was going on with Lyanna and Rhaegar. Absolutely.
No, all he knows is that.
No, Viserys didn't. He was
what's her name?
a child. He
mom.
didn't know anything.
Yeah.
No,
he.
No, he.
Yeah, how old was he when she was born?
I think he was 7 or 8.
Difference again?
7 or 8.
Yeah, I want to say 8.
He's pretty cognizant at 7 or 8.
Well, we can just look this up, right?
Yeah,
let's see. So
I recall in Storm of Swords, like Dany recalled an argument that she had with Viserys, because Viserys was like, oh, had you been born earlier, you would have, Rhaegar would have married you, and you wouldn't have needed the Dornish girl or the Stark girl. And, like, Daenerys got her ass kicked by him because he was, because she shot back at him like, well, if you were born a girl, that would have solved everything too. And he got really pissed about that.
Yeah, so there's an 8-year difference
was
officially
17.
in their birth dates.
Yeah, Viserys was like 17 years younger than Rhaegar, so,
Yeah, because they had all those kids that didn't make it in between.
Yeah.
And also, doesn't that, like the quote you just said, like, shoot down the Dany is Rhaegar's daughter theory, anyway?
No.
I will die on this hill that our posterity is not a thing.
It totally is a thing.
It's not real. Oh, okay. It might be a thing, but it's not possible.
Well, regardless of if that's real or not, he is old enough to know that those little sons of bitches were not secreted away to Bravos. They was up in Dorne.
Yeah, exactly. Because he knew that Rhaegar went out to fight for the woman he loved. Now he's not riding out to fight for Elia, because Elia's like sitting in King's Landing. He's riding out for Lyanna, who's in the Tower of Joy, and that's why he uttered her name when he got killed.
But yeah, the whole point is that at 8 years old, if that's a thing, he would have some idea about it. But either way, like he presents himself as the rightful king, and she's his younger sister. So
yeah,
anyway, it's like we're splitting hairs on all like the fine terminology here. But,
wait, a Vok where we split hairs?
It doesn't.
Yeah, no, I just mean eventually we're gonna know all this, right? So.
Well, yeah, I think we're just being too technical about treason. I mean, we're thinking of it as like treason against the rightful ruler, but you can betray members of your family, and still be like a younger member of somebody in your family that you're betraying. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be
the Supreme Chancellor. Maybe when you show up with some Jedi to arrest him, that's reason. Anyway,
maybe it's a misprint and it should be reason.
3 reasons you will know.
That's possible.
Wouldn't that be so much easier?
And then Martin realized it after he published the book, and then he was like, "Ah, shit, no."
Yeah, it's like shit.
Fits somehow.
He's like, "Well, I'm just so busy putting T's in front of things that I." Oh boy, we're at that point. Okay.
Things are getting silly.
Yep. Okay, so let's move on. What comes next?
Viserys screaming as he dies.
Yeah, and then she gets a bunch of visions coming, hard and fast.
What? Excuse me?
Coming thick and fast.
Yeah. Well,
it is George, so that it will come fast.
Thick, hard, whatever.
But first it's Viserys dying, then it's Rhaegar who's burning his city.
Right.
Yeah.
A tall lord with copper
and then it's Rhaegar dying.
Yep.
And
then it's Rhaegar dying, yeah.
The whispers.
And then the most interesting thing is then it says Mother of Dragons, Daughter of Death. And the previous 3 visions all related to like her brother's and her son's death, right?
How can you be a daughter of death?
Well, one day death got lonely, and I'm sure they explain this in school.
The metaphysical beings having reproducing. They didn't. I did not take that class.
Got real strange.
The stranger gets strange.
I think it's kind of a notion of like how things have significantly changed her life. Like every time like somebody dies, it alters her sort of trajectory in life. Like the
She's
death
like reborn.
Kind of, yeah. Like it kind of puts her through a little bit of personal evolution. Like she goes through a notion of, hey, wait, Westeros is all mine now that Viserys is dead.
Yeah.
And when Rhaegar dies, her whole family is exiled, right? That's sort of the end of their resistance. Right. And then when Viserys dies, she becomes like the rightful queen of Westeros. And when Rhaegar dies, it basically results in her giving birth to dragons. Yeah, so they're all very significant.
So who's going to die next for her? So.
Well, everything is done in like counts of 3, right? So there have already been 3. So no more for Dany. No more death for Dany.
Yeah, Martin's not going to stop writing death.
All of Dany's characters now have plot armor, sure.
Yes, the healing fires of Drogo come to them.
People around her will still... No, I mean, people around her will still die, but like life-changing death might not be like, unless it's
like a death that changes the course of you know, like her life or her kingdom,
like Jon's death.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, Jon's death. Well, Jon has nothing to do with her
at all.
So,
precisely.
Yeah. So, you know, who knows? You know, they're gonna live happily ever after. Anyway, so
why does Rhaegar have copper skin?
It's not Rhaegar, it's Rhaego.
It's her unborn.
Oh, Rhaego. Yeah.
Would have been a mix with Rocky Targaryen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then Ruby's...
The stallion that mounts the world.
Ruby's flew like drops of blood from the chest. Oh, I see. I got it.
That's a separate one. Yeah, they're 2 separate things.
I get it.
Yeah, so then, you clearly get Rhaegar's death. And then, Stannis with his sword, his limp sword. I mean, his sword that doesn't cast a shadow.
His limp sword.
Oh, look how flaming it is, but it's not hot. Yeah, interesting. Poor Stannis. He's got the coolest sword, like, allegedly. You know?
Dude,
but
it's not Valyrian steel. How can, like, it be Heartsbane?
Yeah, wouldn't you rather have
I'd rather have
Thoros' sword that you could just light on fire and it's hot and like whatever than like a fake Lightbringer, right, guys? I mean, come on.
Yeah, but Thoros' sword's like always broke or whatever. Like they're just like good for one
always end up ruined.
Dude, give me a kick-ass Valyrian blade like Lady Forlorn or something like that. Come on.
Wait, the Baratheons don't have a Valyrian blade, right?
I don't think so. No. Well, they had a Valyrian knife.
I need to go back to Valyrian cast, and everyone has like 20 Valyrian knives, but they just sort of don't ever melt them down and make swords, because whatever. You know, that's not, I guess.
Well, find somebody who can actually do it properly without screwing it up. That's pretty tricky.
Tobalt.
Yeah.
Right? He's the one that makes Oathbreaker and whatever Widow's Wail.
It might be easier to split a large piece than to like, because it's from one like forged piece, that to try to meld these different pieces with different spells in them. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe you can't take all these knives and put them together because they just don't mix without knowing, like, you know, the old secrets.
Yeah, but Tobalt knew the old secrets and the spells to forge.
He knew how to rework the metal, but it doesn't necessarily mean he knew how to, like, you know, meld them together. I don't know. I'm just coming up with a reason why they don't have more Valyrian swords when they say they have lots of daggers. So
actually, I think the only unique sword in the entire story is Dawn.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's not Valyrian steel.
But it's still like all impressive as everything. So yeah.
Yeah, it's from like a comet, right?
Alien.
Or a meteor or something like that. Yeah, it fell for the heavens. Yeah.
In the final book, when the motherships descend, that's the sword you're gonna want.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna tell you right now. So.
Did you guys see
and then
King Tut had a meteorite sword or something?
I saw that.
It's fucking badass.
Yeah, and it's still like sharp too.
The pyramids, yeah, they were landing pads for aliens. I saw Stargate. I know what's up.
I saw the guy.
So so then we have the cloth dragon. I mean, the cloth dragon, if it's not Aegon, like what are some possibilities? Let's just say Aegon's real.
Couldn't that be?
Even then, he'd still be like a Mummer's dragon because he's sort of.
Because his claim.
Basically, because he's being nominated by Varys, right? So Varys is a Mummer. So even if he's true or false, it doesn't matter because he's still, you know, sort of backed by Varys.
It also might refer to their overall plot too. Like Varys and Illyria were planning on having war happen to destabilize the kingdom, and then Aegon was going to show up and, you know, bring everything back into order and be cheered by the people. So I think it's a reference to like how they're planning to get support from the small folk and whatnot.
I always am confused about their plan. Like, no.
I think their plan from the very beginning was that Aegon would join up with Daenerys, and then together they would conquer Westeros. Tyrion kind of ruins their plan. Yeah, when he suggests to Aegon that he should have something of his own before he can go to his aunt who already has dragons.
Mm.
Which, I mean, is the smarter play to combine their forces, but whatever.
Yeah, but even like the Golden Company is like, oh yeah, that Batman whose plan changes every 2 seconds. Like, so.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, to be fair...
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Varley.
I was going to say, it's like a game of telephone, but where I'm like the very last one, so we have to like go backwards to see like what their original plan was. Like, we kind of get that in the Game of Thrones when they meet in like the cellars of the Red Keep, but it's still like one saying, "Oh no, delay," or accelerate. Like,
so the Stone Beast,
breathing Beast, Shadow Flame. What the fuck is Shadow Flame?
Again, I always remembered this as a Great Stone Dragon, but when I read this, it said a Great Stone Beast took wing, and immediately I think I thought of John Connington, who has grayscale and is basically turning to stone slowly.
Ooh.
And his
he's
sigil,
taking wing because he's the
his
griffin.
His sigil is a griffin, which can also fly, right? Yeah.
Right. It's like a flying lion.
But because we refer to the stone dragon, right? And waking the stone dragon. And...
Yeah, I think Shireen is the one that dreams of stone dragons.
Yeah, so it's just I think people kind of naturally you kind of like conflate the two, maybe. Yeah, I could definitely see this being separate.
Interesting. So.
But again, the next part says Mother of Dragons, Slayer of Lies, which means that all the previous three are basically something that she is going to eventually prove as a lie, right? So first Stannis being Azor Ahai and him having Lightbringer, and then the Mummer's Dragon, and then the Great Stone Beast. She's going to prove all of them as lies, basically. And one interpretation is that the Great Stone Beast breathing shadow fire is basically a great griffin sort of putting forward a false Targaryen heir. Which would again be John Connington and Aegon.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
did somebody ask what a griffin was?
Yeah, that was me.
It's a beast that has the head of an eagle and wings of an eagle and the body of a lion.
Gotcha. Thanks, Joel.
Yeah, that's why when Tyrion talks to Connington, he's kind of teasing him about it. Like, he's like, oh, you can just... I can't remember the exact conversation, but it's almost like you can add wings to any creature and make it into something fantastical, or something like that. He's hinting that he knows who John Connington is, and John Connington's just kind of like, shut the fuck up, you little bastard, or I'll kill you.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, Lannister's lions aren't good enough for you, you gotta put wings on them and give them a beak.
Jerks.
So then we get Dany riding her silver...
Right, and that's confirmed. Like, the Misa situation, like, so that one's, like, straight up, like... happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so next.
Okay, so this set is very interesting because the first one is her silver trotting through the grass. The next one is a corpse standing at the prow of a ship, and then the third one is a blue flower growing from a chink in a wall of ice that fills the air with sweetness. And then it says, Mother of Dragons, Bride of Fire, right? So it basically means the previous three all refer to her husbands.
No, Bride of Death.
No, it says Bride of Fire. But, the silver is obviously depicting Drogo.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one, a corpse standing at the prow of a ship. This is probably a future husband.
So
right?
is it...
Maybe Victorian.
Right, it's a Greyjoy, right? It's either Euron, Victorian,
it does say Bride of Fire.
Yeah. I think a lot of people just
because of that, we're assuming those are all husbands.
Yeah. And the third one is obviously Jon, who will eventually become her husband. No, but it says a blue flower growing from a chink in a wall of ice. and
you think
filled
John's a
the
blue
air
flower?
with sweetness. Well, the blue flower, okay.
Amongst the Night's Watch? Sure.
A blue flower is basically... No, but seriously.
Oh, John,
blue flower
that smells so sweet. Are you wearing lavender today? Big unclone up there at the wall.
All right, what were you saying, Nadia?
Okay, so the blue flower was the favorite flower of Lyanna Stark, right? And then it also refers to the story of Bael the Bard.
Bael the Bard, yeah.
Yeah,
Rhaegar was obsessed with.
Abducted the Lord's... not exactly abducted. He basically absconded with Lord Stark's daughter, right? And he left a blue flower in her bed. And eventually, they both had a child who became the next Lord Stark, right?
Right.
They basically had a son. And that kind of refers that Lyanna, who ran off with the Targaryen, had a son who is now in a wall of, who is at, a wall of ice, right?
Yep.
And
he's stuck at the wall.
And again, Bran has a vision where he sees Jon's body growing hard and cold underneath the wall, right?
Because he's dead and not coming back.
It's rigor mortis. That's right.
Yeah.
Just so it's clear.
Yeah, because in
So
Bran's dream, doesn't he see like something similar?
Bran is the one who sees Jon growing hard and basically.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, but that's Bran's dream. Why would that be?
Yeah, I know it is. It just sort of ties into this vision. The blue flower is obviously referring to a Stark girl's son, right? A child, right?
No, it could just be referring to Lyanna. It doesn't have to. It could be referring to Lyanna.
Lyanna is not at the wall. Her son.
Lyanna at the wall. Yeah.
Yeah, but
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but
we get the whole story of Bael the Bard. I mean, we get the story of Bael the Bard in great detail, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would be the other interpretation of that?
Well, the other interpretation that I can see of it is that the whole vision just refers to Lyanna. It has no reference to Jon Snow, because if you're trying to point out that Lyanna is Daenerys' mother, and you show a picture of Winterfell and there's like a blue flower there, okay, well, Daenerys has never been to Winterfell. She would have absolutely no idea, what that place looks like. You could show her any castle in Westeros and she'd have absolutely no idea what that place would be. But if you show her...
So you're thinking the wall is a more recognizable landmark? That's what you're trying
Exactly.
to say.
The wall's just a metaphor for the North. Like if I showed you a picture of a desert and I gave you like a rose, and I'm like, okay, go to this desert and find this, and this is the person that, this is where your mother was from, and you had no clue where they were from, or you'd never been there, like, you wouldn't know if I was referring to the desert in the southwestern United States, if I was referring to the Sahara or the Gobi. There's any number of ways that you could fit. But if you basically put, that same image in front of essentially what is one of the 7 wonders of the world, it's unmistakable of the region of the world that you're referring to. So I think that's the reference to it. I don't think it refers to Jon specifically.
If you look at only the visions of Dany, right? We're basically seeing visions in sets of 3, right? So in this case, the first vision is referring to a former husband of Daenerys, right? Which is Drogo.
Right.
The next one is probably referring to someone who is at the moment on his way to Dany, intending to propose to her, right? Which is Victorian. He's decided that he's going to propose to Dany when he.
Wasn't even Quentin on a ship to propose to her? So.
Yeah, and then why would the third vision in this set suddenly refer to her mother?
Yeah, well, I mean, like the blue flower does allude to that. Right? It does allude to Lyanna in general, but yeah, I mean, it's hard. I guess hard to argue, but. Yeah.
Maybe it refers to Arya.
And then it says, that mother of dragons, bride of fire, right? So it's basically referring to something that she's going to be a bride of. So she can't exactly marry Lyanna, right? She can't marry her mother. She's dead.
Well, once she's queen, she could marry the dragon. She could just make that a law.
Yeah, but Lyanna. Yeah, but if Lyanna secretly married Rhaegar, like in front of the Heart's Tree or something like that, then she would have literally been the bride of fire.
Yeah, but
says,
all of these are.
So I mean, and Lyanna's from the north. Lyanna's from the north. She's like, no, we don't need a septum. Look, I see a tree. Let's go stand there. We'll draw a smiley face on it.
Like, the thing that really sells it is. The thing that sells it for me is the wall.
We'll pledge our whole Sarah vows and done deal.
Trust.
Like John is at the wall, and I don't know. Like, a lot of these visions don't seem really concerned with getting her to understand much that's in them. Like, more for the reader than for her, as I said before. So I don't know. Like, I don't think the visions are like showing her the wall just to be like, hey, it's the north. I think like they're meaning something
they're
at
actually
the wall,
showing her the wall. Yeah, in when it says when it talks about a great stone beast, it says a tower, right? It could be any tower. It doesn't explain to her what kind of a tower it is, where that tower is, right? But in this case, it shows her a wall of ice. It doesn't show her. She doesn't interpret it. We're basically getting Dany's interpretation, right? She doesn't say the wall. She just says a wall of ice. So she doesn't understand what it is.
Well, maybe she'll go to a cocktail party and there'll be like little sculptures. It'll be in Highgarden. It'll be someplace in like Highgarden, and you know.
Does Dany have good maps? I mean, are we?
No, I don't think she does.
No, she wanders the Red Way.
She knows Dany understands very, very little about Westeros, whether it be maps or their culture or whatever.
Dany,
once her and Viserys kind of became, beggars, for essentially.
Yeah, but
they didn't really have a lot of formal education beyond that, right?
Yeah, but her and Viserys like wandered all over the free cities, so it's not like she's completely ignorant. And she would have at some point seen like a map on a ship or something like that.
Well, you'd assume she'd want to see maps of her homeland. Like you would think she would seek those out. I'm just saying I don't know how much, how well she knows, the geography.
Well,
and does the map just show a big wall of ice up there? Like, well,
considering she lived at the Sea Lord of Braavos' home for a while, I would assume there would be like very detailed maps.
Does he have a map table?
Oh, I don't know if he has a map table, but he probably has.
He also has fancy
like
cats,
Dragonstone,
right?
What?
Isn't that how Sarah Farrell said, like the guy's like, oh, like, look at how fancy my cat is, and Sarah Farrell's like, no, it's just a regular cat.
That's a normal cat, yo.
Yeah, exactly.
You're hired.
Yeah.
Honestly, that sounds kind of like a very Trump move,
I will hire thee if you can answer
you weren't afraid to call me out.
Riddle the first.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the thing. Okay. With the Bride of Fire, if we go back to the 3 fires you must light, 1 for life, 1 for death, 1 to love. So that to me ties back in with that.
Oh, with John you're talking about.
Just that part of the prophecy.
Yeah.
Whatever that fire is, so it's like 1 to love, Bride of Fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, like that's to me that seems
possible,
obvious, but
I disagree.
But yeah, I mean, it's.
I don't know the validity of like John in there though.
And so, some of this stuff too. I mean, like, what's the whole thing of like, a prophecy? Maybe you can change. It changes it. Maybe.
Not if you're Cersei.
Like, I just don't think that. Yeah, well, Cersei, maybe she knows the prophecy, so she's making it happen in some ways. But that's all. That's all a whole other debate. But I do think that not necessarily everything we get here, or even just the prophecies in general in the books, is going to be true. I mean, even tangentially, some of it will just be flat out wrong. But that's just my personal heresy.
I don't know. Most of them seem to be like at least have a like near truth, where it's not like a literal truth, but it's a interpretive truth. Like you could argue
that's why I think he's doing that on purpose. I think he's giving us a lot of these early ones where like, oh look, Red Wedding, like he's laying this out, and I think at the end, like you're gonna go, oh well, I know it's gonna happen, and then you're not gonna know what's gonna happen, Speaking
of which, if you go back up to the previous one, a stone beast taking wing from a tower as it breathes shadow fire. I can't remember where, but really early on after I read this book, I came across something that said that was just dragon stone. This castle's supposed to be like, there's like a legend that it's like a stone dragon, right? And
Yeah.
even if that's not true,
is kind of...
the towers of it, like if you look at the picture of it in the world book, it's got a bunch of different towers that are all dragon heads. So it could be like they just serve as chimneys and there's like shadow fire, so smoke, or just that at some point that burns and again smoke.
I think Dragonstone is kind of hard to mistake because it's obvious. It's even in the description in the book, just even if you don't look at the picture in the world book, just the description of it given in the book, it says it's basically built to look like a dragon. So it's really hard to mistake, right? So she wouldn't just see a tower, she would see a part of a dragon there. Right? So I don't think it is Dragonstone. Because most of these visions are like super clear, right? So they wouldn't be that vague, I think.
Fair enough.
I wouldn't argue that they're super clear. I mean,
Griffin's Roost has like what, gargoyles or some shit on it, right?
I'm not.
Every tower has gargoyles. Every tower has gargoyles.
Yeah, it's like...
Isn't Griffin's Roost just
like basically
basically
that farmer's field has a scarecrow.
It's like a big giant tower, though, right?
No, I think that's the name of the keep. But I think the keep may have towers attached to it. I could be wrong, though. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, I seem to remember that Griffin's Roost might be a tower.
Yeah, it's like really tall because there's some shit about they're in it and they're like looking down across the hell's the name of that dam? It's like an inlet of water, right? That separates them from Dorne.
Yeah, it's on the Cape Wrath.
Cape Wrath.
Okay, let's see here. Yeah, because it's on Shipbreaker Bay, which is why they like got scattered and they didn't get everybody because they got hit by a storm. Castle lies surrounded by red stone cliffs on three sides, stems of the starting waters. Okay, the entrance is guarded on one end by a gatehouse, the castle's main gate, and two round towers on the other end. So there's multiple towers on Griffin's Roost. So it's got like a main like gatehouse and then two like standing towers.
Okay.
Hey guys, I gotta take off.
All right, Matt. See ya.
It's been fun.
Bye, Matt.
Later, Matt. Where were we?
Just past Bride of Fire.
The shadows inside the tent.
Yep.
Oh yeah, the shadows inside the tent. Well, what could that be?
Well, again, that's a vision of her past, right? When she saw Marie Mazdur doing that ceremony.
Yeah, I was being sarcastic, but
I think
or
three
Renly's death, right?
Well, it's talking.
Well, isn't it like no? Doesn't she very clearly see? Yeah, I thought that was very clearly a vision of the ceremony, but
I think if you see like all three of these, this group of three, they all refer to things that have already happened in Dany's past. So the shadows in the tent, then the little girl running barefoot towards a big house with a red door, and then the silver horse dragging the corpse of a naked man, which is the guy who tried to poison Dany.
Oh yeah, the wine cellar.
These are all visions of her past. Yeah. And then the next three are I think visions of the future, things that are still going to happen.
Yeah. So, and then you have the line of naked crones coming out of a great lake and kneeling before her.
We have the white lion.
The white lion
running through past taller than a man.
The white lion, taller than a man, lion.
It could be a reference to the lion that Drogo goes out and hunts and gets for her. and gives back to her. The pelt, yeah. But it can also be a reference to Tyrion Lannister making his way across the sea of grass.
But taller than a man?
Yeah.
I think the grass is taller than a man, not the lion itself.
Yeah.
I think it just means that because Tyrion is so short, it looks like the grass is taller than him. But actually, it's not really that tall. But it says white lion because I think Tyrion is supposed to have like really light colored hair. It's not like blonde like Cersei and Jaime. It's kind of whitish.
Well, it could have something to do with Jaime because he's a Kingsguard, so he wears a white cloak. A white lion.
Well, yeah, it could be Jaime. But just
it could be, but it's kind of weird as to how that would...
Tyrion is an ASOS, so there's more chance that
he like wants to have something to do with her, unlike Jaime. So
I don't know. I can see the reference to Jaime because Jaime has sort of this cavalieristic attitude. Well, prior to his capture and maiming towards things, so running through the grass like taller than a man, you really can't see through it, but he's just bounding through it anyway. He doesn't care about what may be there. So it could be. There is a metaphorical way that you could like spin it to make it apply to Jaime. But I do kind of think it does reference Tyrion a little bit.
Yeah.
Because Tyrion does end up fleeing.
It's a Lannister, right? So the lion part seems pretty obvious. But the line of naked crones, under the Mother Mountains. I mean, we're assuming the Dosh Khaleen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if it's from the past,
I don't know, who else would that be, right?
Them declaring the stallion that mounts the world in her.
Well, this would be the future.
But then,
right?
Yeah, but this is the future because when she went to the Mother of Mountains the first time, they didn't kneel to her.
Because they were sort of all on equal footing.
Yeah. This is basically them sort of in an inferior position. They're shivering and their heads are bowed and they're kneeling before her.
They're naked, cold, and she's clearly in charge. And then you have the 10,000 slaves. Crying mother.
That's obvious.
This we've already seen.
Yeah.
And the Great Lake the womb of the world. I think that's what it's called.
That's right beneath the Mother Mountains.
I really like the part where they're like, mother, they cried, mother. They were reaching for her, touching her, tugging at her cloak, the hem of her skirt, her foot, her leg, her breast. They wanted her, needed her. The fire, the life, and Dany gasped and opened her arms to give herself to them. And that really rings true of like her whole floppy ears thing in Marine and how they need her, but then she kind of outgrows needing them because it's such a sticky situation and it's so taxing on her. So it is kind of akin to some sort of, I don't want to say rape, but that kind of, She at first is very open and gives herself to them, and then they kind of shit all over it with their behavior. It's not so much their behavior as the masters and everything, but still they don't help in many ways. It's just chaos all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of blame to go around in that situation.
Yeah.
But, yeah, for sure. So, yeah, so that's the last, that's the last vision, right? And then she kind of realizes that things aren't going well. Or, well, Drogon helps her realize that. Yeah, and let's see.
It will be kind of funny if she shows back up at the Mother of Mountains on top of Drogon, and she's like, boom, see? In your face. I did produce the stallion that mounts the world. Ha!
Yeah, I mean, that's where we all think she's going, so...
Oh, and I don't think that they'll be like, bullshit, I think...
the world being Drogon.
Yeah, I think they're gonna, kneel down, trembling, and be like, oh, shit.
But still, even, I'm sure she would have rathered it had been her child. So, it's still rough. But, yeah, so then we get, more, kind of uncomfortable imagery, and Drogon handles some business, and she gets out of there, basically, right? Let's see, it says indigo turned to orange, whispers turn to screams, and she is saved.
Yeah, this part's really interesting. The Undying were all around her, blue and cold, whispering as they reached for her, pulling, stroking, tugging at her clothes, touching her with their dry, cold hands, twining their fingers through her hair. All the strength had left her limbs. She could not move. Her heart had ceased to beat. She felt a hand on her bare breast, twisting her nipple. Now, who does that remind you of?
Pervs. Someone who's been stuck in a tower for a long time and ain't seen a woman? I don't know.
Daenerys. He'd always twist her nipple, right?
Yeah.
But isn't that just kind of a thing that creepy guys are gonna do? I don't know. I mean, for her, it probably reminds her of that abuse. But yeah, it just makes me think these people are gross. Let's see. Yeah, and then she gets outside and she's safe. Pyat Pri, one last hurrah, comes at her with a knife, right? And let's see, Drogon flies at his face, and she heard the crack of Drogo's whip, and the sound was never so sweet. I like that. Yeah, the knife went flying, and there was Jorah.
So here's my thing. Rakora was slamming Pyat Pri to the ground, and then the chapter ends, and I don't know if we want to talk about it, but did anyone read the Empire Wins a Win chapter?
Yeah, we've already done an episode on it. So,
I have
I
have not read anything from the Winds of Winter.
Are you avoiding those?
No, I just don't want to get into it without having the whole thing there, and just start doing a whole bunch of additional conclusions, and that prologue disproved everything I was wondering about. Damn.
Well, more power to you. The rest of us were like the Undying. We're just grasping whatever we can get. So, anyway, we're getting onto a bit of a tangent here. Anybody else have any closing thoughts here on this chapter?
It's probably one of the best, if not the best, chapter throughout the entire series, I think.
Yeah, it's very good. It's short, but there's a lot to get your mind spinning in here. What were you saying, Nadia?
Other than the prophecies in this chapter, which we get a lot of, just the atmosphere in the whole chapter, it's like a horror movie. Especially when she hears something shuffling and dragging itself on the carpet behind her, and it's just so creepy. It's amazing.
I think in this set of chapters, there's a couple of nice stretches where you can see that George has brought out his his thriller. He really sets the pace very well for that kind of feeling. So
when you first said thriller, I thought you were going to reference the Michael Jackson album.
Hey, it's almost Halloween.
But hey, whatever helps him write. Helps him write. Yeah.
Well, you're gonna cosplay as one of the Undying this year. Good luck figuring that out, right? Thank you guys for joining us. And next episode, I believe that's gonna be Bina, and we'll be covering. Let's see, Tyrion 11, Dany 5, Tyrion 12, Sansa 4. So that's it. Make sure to check out the Twitter and Facebook. It mentions all these things. I'm not going to mention them all because I've mentioned them a bunch of times already and I don't feel like it. So anyway, thanks guys.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.